thank you everyone for coming out today. It's a pleasure to be here again. About 3 years ago, when we were on Alton Road, I was also invited to speak. Can everyone hear me, by the way? I don't have a microphone. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, louder.
Louder, okay, thank you, Bill.
On this side.
So I spoke to the Breakfast Club about a topic that I'm very knowledgeable on and I've worked on for many years, which is traffic and transportation. And now, 3 years later, I'm running for city commissioner. So I'll first start with some information about myself. As Maddie said, compared to some of my people who are also running for city commissioner, I'm more of an average person. I'm a dad, I'm a husband, I'm a father. My 2 kids attend South Point Elementary, our local neighborhood public school. I've lived on South Beach for almost 15 years, and I really love it here. This is a really special place, and when my wife and I moved here from Washington, D.C. in the early 2010s, we looked all around Florida, all around South Florida. We went down Coral Gables, South Miami, Coconut Grove. We went as far north to Hollywood. We went to Midtown, Edgewater, Downtown, Brickell, Surfside, you name it, we were there. And we stayed on South Beach. Why? Not because of the negative things that you might hear from other people, but all the positives. The culture that we have here, the connectivity, the walkability, all the different events that we have, the hospitality, the restaurants. Even back then, the nightlife. We don't really go out that much anymore, but it's really great. So I just, what Maddie said is true. I'm more a regular person. I eat at the same restaurants that you all go to. We shop at the same stores. We sit in the same traffic as everyone else. And we experience the same growing pains from constant development in the city and the nonstop construction on our roadways. So a little bit more about myself. My profession, I'm a software developer. I work for large not-for-profits that have had billion-dollar endowments. I work on their accounting systems. I develop software for them, help them data analysis. Problem solving is my specialty. And when I moved down to Florida, I switched into the aviation industry. We managed aircraft assets, engines, parts. We developed systems to price aircraft parts. It was really interesting. And this data analysis, I think, is helpful for cities as well. Because too often what we see is policy making that's not done based on evidence. It's done by, as they like to say, complaint driven. And we know that people usually only speak out when they have something negative. They do not when they have a positive experience. And I think that one of the things that when I speak to people around the city is that they really do love Miami Beach. And we can improve. We can improve, there's no doubt about that. With $1 billion budget, there's ample resources to do so. And that's one of my focuses. In addition to transportation, transit, mobility, housing, and community, is how can we improve the government experience? So, I want to tell you a little bit more about my civic leadership. I founded an organization called Better Streets Miami Beach, and we have advocated for more walkable streets, more bikeable streets, improved public transit, and improved driving for all of our residents and visitors. I've served on various city boards. I was on the city's Transportation Advisory Committee, and in my last year I was elected by my peers to be the chairperson. I served on the city's planning board in their urban planning seat, where I helped shed light onto many issues that the city faces with regards to growth, with regards to hospitality businesses, with regards to nightlife and impacts that these things have on here. And I was a champion for, when people talk about smart growth, I was up there championing smart growth. When these big projects would come in front of us, and they would talk about being less dense. I highlight, what does less dense mean? Does anyone know? When a project, when a politician or developer says, this project is going to be less dense, what does that mean? Any guesses? Smaller. You think it means smaller? Anyone else?
Less people.
Less cars. Less people. Less cars. less FAR. So, you're both wrong, unfortunately. Less dense just means less units. These projects that have been brought forth over the years, when they say less dense, they're taller, they're bigger, they're more FAR. People who are watching or here who don't know what FAR is, it stands for floor area ratio. What that basically means is how large a building is relative to the piece of land on the top. So they may say less dense, but when they're increasing the FAR, they're making it more intense. And that means that building is bigger. That means that it has more shadows. That means that it feels more claustrophobic on the street. That means that when construction takes place, it takes longer to build. And when you look at the building, it's a bigger building. But yet there are less people living there. And I don't know about you, but I want to live in a community that's full of great people that are at the restaurants, that are at the beach. When I go to the playground, I hope there are kids there. I hope there are parents there. When I go to the restaurants, and that's a whole other topic we'll talk about, but when I go to the restaurants, I want to see that they're thriving, that people are eating there, not that we hear about restaurants closing every single day. And that is unfortunately the reality of Miami Beach. And that's the reality of less dense buildings. When you have that tall building at Fifth Mountain, our favorite tower is just completed, 500 feet. It's the tallest building in Miami Beach. And when it was approved, that was a selling point. No one's going to live there, is what they told us. And it's true. Look at it at night. The same lights are on every night because there's no one there. There are very few people that are living there. So while it is a shiny new building, and yes, it contributes to the tax revenues of the city, it's not part of the vibrancy that I think you all that have attracted us here. Oh, and then I kind of went on tangents, and I was on the planning board, and that was a great experience. As you know, when you run for elected office now, you may not serve on any city boards, whether it's the planning board or any of the 60 boards that the city has, you have to resign or not be appointed to. So I had a great experience on the planning board, a great experience on the transportation committee. I do serve on the board, though, still for the public service. I'm on the county's, Miami-Dade County's Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee. So once a month, I go downtown. Sometimes I bike, sometimes I take the bus, sometimes I even drive. And it's definitely a great experience. I'll tell you, last week, as you know, it's been raining a lot. I took the bus. And we hear about how the buses are, either no one rides public transit, or that they're slow, or they're dirty. I'll tell you, it was clean, it was fast, but it was crowded. And on the way back, the bus was so full that people were standing in the aisles, and the bus driver had to stop. He had to stop on the causeway on the back here, get off the bus, walk to the back, and ask people to move back so that he could safely operate the bus when it was that full. There is demand there for improved public transportation, and I'll get into that a little bit later on about that when I go through my priorities. I want to talk about my leadership style. It's about listening to people. It's about walking the streets, about talking to neighbors, and listening to what's going on. Too often now we hear that it's about complaints. It's legislative driven. If you've gone to these city commission meetings, you know that they can just run on endlessly until 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. Every little thing seems to be legislated today. And the purpose of a city commissioner, I'm running not to decide how often the streets are swept or whether they're pressure washed or power steamed. That's for the professionals to decide. And we have great professionals in the city. We need to let them do the job. And commissioners, again, be part-time policymakers. We need a clear vision for the city. And what I've heard is it's one that is a vibrant city, that's a fun city, that's a city that can compete with, whether it's Wynwood, which when I moved here, Wynwood was an empty district. It was, I would go there there was a cool computer club called Code for Miami. And when I went there was nothing there, nothing. Once a month you had the art walks, and that was a fun experience. But none of these buildings that are there today, none of these restaurants none of the apartment buildings and the stores, the flagship stores, and the office buildings, and Amazon and other tech companies. They're not moving to Miami Beach, unfortunately. They should be. They're moving to Wynwood. They're moving to Merkle. They're moving to Coconut Grove. This is our competition, and in order to compete, it's not just about building permits. It's about making the city more livable. It's about making it more accessible. It's about bringing in experts who understand. It's about listening to you all around here why you moved here. I'm sure you moved here because you walk to your neighborhood store, because you can talk to your neighbors, because you go to the beach. And these are the same reasons why people from all around the world come to visit here as well. My approach to leadership, again, is talking to people. It's data guided. I've got a couple signs here. I've got more signs. I didn't put them all up. But there's some really interesting things. If you dig down and you learn more about the city, you learn that over 60% of residents are renters. Do you hear policymakers talk about renters at all? Anyone? A little bit. A little bit. But they focus on these big, less dense buildings with less people. When you have less housing for more people, what does that do to rent? All right, I see some thumbs up. It makes rent higher. And higher rent is a less affordable city, and that ties into why our city's population, unfortunately, has been declining. So data helps guide policy. It's not the only way to set policy, but it's an important piece and one that needs to be, or should be, I believe, bigger picture, a bigger part of the picture. The other thing is there's not direct outreach. Too much is a small group of people seem to now be directing policy, and we need to focus more on in real life. What we're doing here, not just computer, not just Facebook, not just neighborhood organizations. They are very helpful, but data shows, by the way, that it's not necessarily the most, the best way to do outreach. So engaging more with people, putting signs on the streets when we have community meetings, bilingual signs. I'm not fluent in Spanish. My wife speaks Spanish, so she helps me out when I'm knocking on doors and talking to our neighbors. But we need to focus on the 50% of residents that are Hispanic, that speak Spanish. Listen to them. They are a big part of our community. They live here. Their kids attend our schools. They work in all the different industries around town, and so more outreach. And then again, we need to work with the policymakers and take their guidance. If I'm elected to city commission, anytime I vote on something, I'm going to ask first, what do the experts say? What is their recommendation? Often, there is no recommendation because they're afraid. They're afraid to give their expert opinion, best practices, because they're afraid to lose their job. We don't need a culture of fear in City Hall. So, on to, I guess, my bread and butter, which is traffic and transportation, mobility. Who here feels like they can't leave Miami Beach, say, after 3 o'clock in the afternoon?
Everybody?
Everyone, right? You're trapped in your own community. Something like going to the doctor, you can only go to the doctor from a small window, whether it's, from after the morning rush or right before that afternoon rush, which is like 2 o'clock nowadays. If you're going to pick up your kids from school or on the mainland, it can take you an hour to get across. If you're looking for doctors, it's not who's the best doctor for me, it's where's their office. You need to go to the store. I mean, the list goes on and on for people who live here. And then think about, you're a business owner. How do you recruit people to work here if they can't get here? It's very different. Are you a business owner?
Yes.
Where is your business?
It's a dental office.
The dental office.
71st Street,
71st Street.
Normandy area. And to hire personnel is difficult because anybody live around. So they say, oh, it's too far to drive in the morning, the rush hour, and leave in the afternoon. So it's been very difficult to have staff.
What's your your first name?
Vilma. Vilma.
Wilma. So Wilma owns a dental practice in Normandy Shores, and she has trouble recruiting employees to work there. It's too difficult to get in the morning, and it's too difficult to leave in the afternoon.
Also, the patients want different hours. They want 10 a.m. or before 2 p.m.
Okay,
Or
questions at the end, the interactions at the end.
To the end. I'm
He
sorry.
started, he started.
I know he started. And so, you know, it's nice interaction.
Well, I wanted to give a real world example.
I understand.
Thank you, Maddie. So, the issue is that we hear this a lot. People don't want to work here, and if they do work here, once they start commuting here, they realize that it really impacts their life, and they leave. They go somewhere that's more centrally located. And that is, again, back to our issue of competition with surrounding neighborhoods. It's great that the whole region is thriving, that Florida is thriving, but our little slice of paradise is Miami Beach. We're competing with these places, and they're winning, we're losing. Making it easier to get here, whether it's by car, whether it is micro-mobility, which are the people that are riding scooters and everyone loves to complain about, but they serve a great practical purpose, whether it's bus or even capital projects to improve transit and to increase reliability. These are things that you don't hear about much. And we are all facing or realizing the consequences by focusing on other issues. Misplaced priorities. Again, so while the city has lots of resources, what we can focus on is sort of limited. And one example would be the water taxi. The water taxi sounds great. If you are an elected leader in the city, and you say, I'm working to solve traffic, I'm building a water taxi, right? It's a great soundbite. When you campaign to be elected, who would say no, right? Doesn't a water taxi sound great? It does. Now here's the reality. When the city sponsored a water taxi last summer, they averaged 3 people per trip. The capacity of the ship was 150 people. They were averaging 3 people. I was on that first trip, the inaugural trip. I was there with the transportation director and staff members, and we were the only ones on there. And the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. This was the 3rd time that a water taxi had been tried on Miami Beach. And it does have certain times that it works, like during Art Basel, when there's no other way to get around. But besides perhaps 1 week a year, the other 51 weeks of the year, the water taxi it's slower, it's more maintenance intensive, it's more expensive, and it's less reliable than other ways, whether it's an Uber, whether it's a bus, whether people walk faster. And of course, it doesn't solve the issues that we had. Once you get onto land, how are you then going to get to where you want to go? The water taxi doesn't solve that. That's one example of misplaced priorities. The other is, there's no master plan for traffic. There's just piecemeal solutions, whether it is a pilot program, not solutions, piecemeal pilot programs. Whether it's pilot programs that are prohibiting left turns, or it is during special events blocking streets, which by the way makes it worse. Placing police officers at every intersection. These aren't best practices. These aren't proven to work. And as one former mayor told me, it's like rearranging the chairs on the deck of the Titanic. They're avoiding the real issue here, and they're not bringing practical solutions. I will work with leaders. I'll listen to the experts, and I'll build upon the relationships that I have with city, county, and state leaders to get us moving again, so that our businesses can thrive, can have customers and employees, and so that we're not stuck here after 2 o'clock every single day. Next is housing. So again, I said about 2/3 of residents are renters. Yet the focus is always on less dense but more intense, taller, bigger buildings that are replacing housing that normal, everyday people are living in. We've seen it this year. We've seen it with 1250 West Avenue in South Beach. We've seen it in the Deauville in North Beach. When I was on the planning board and we heard the Deauville, I was quoted in the Miami Herald as saying, "This is a great start." And I thought it was a great start. If we took down the heights from what they first proposed, if we made it more contextually appropriate with the neighborhood, I think it could have been a great project. But instead, do you know where it actually ended up? A bigger building, a taller hotel, and more luxury units. It didn't actually go in the direction that benefits people of this community. Things that could benefit us, like Washington Avenue zoning changes to encourage full-time residential housing, they've been tabled. It's been on the commission agenda for months, and they're not going to hear it until maybe after the election. So by the way, if you want to see more people living in this city, making it more vibrant, helping reduce rents so it's more affordable, I'm your guy. Because I'll support that. And when we heard these items at the planning board, I encourage the heights to be lower so that the buildings didn't have water views. Water view equals a luxury product, which equals higher rents. They wanted to remove the maximum unit size. I said no. I said no, and I made a motion so that we kept that in there. Because again, what we ended up gravitating towards are tall buildings with large unit size that are less dense, less people living here. So I'll work ways with experts, work with the private industry for market-based solutions. I don't think the commission necessarily knows best. We need to work with experts in here to make sure that there are housing solutions. So whether you are a young professional or a senior citizen living on a fixed income, there's somewhere for you to live on Long Beach. Because what makes a city special are the people and the diversity of the people. We don't exist in a vacuum. We can't say we just want one type of person living here. That doesn't work. That won't work. And then lastly, I want to work together for bottom-up ways to improve the community. That means, again, increasing outreach, supporting ideas from community members on great activities, not dictating what these activities will be. Let's listen, let's create contests for items that will help improve the community, whether they are picnics or farmers markets. We can work together, I believe, to help improve just the feeling, the feeling that we get here. We have, if you go down to Lemus Park, you'll see we have the volleyball community. You go to Flamingo Park, we go to the tennis community. You go other places, we go to the pickleball community. So sporting and outdoors is huge. We have playgrounds, we have parks all throughout the city. We'll find more ways to engage with people and improve upon that. Lastly, I do want to talk about my track record, the things that I have accomplished over the last 5+ years of being actively involved in the community. I worked on strategies to help reduce traffic. City Bike, our bike share system, has almost 2 million rides per year. That is amongst the highest actually in the country. And think about it, we're a little town on an island. We're 7 square miles. But we're up there in the big leagues compared with Washington, D.C. and New York City with their systems that might have 10 times as many bikes as we do. When they came for an extension, I advocated for a resident benefit. And most people don't know, and I hope that this becomes something that everyone learns about, that every resident in this city can ride up to 3 times per month with city bikes at no charge. And the reason why is to get people who are interested. Maybe they say, hey, look, I see all these people zipping around town. I want to try. I want to try a bike. And right now, the process definitely can be improved, and I will work on that. But right now, everyone in this room will Miami Beach, you're entitled to ride a city bike. You can try it out. You can try out how? Great question. So, the newsletter that the city sends out every week has instructions. They have a web page. I signed up just to see how it is. I had to go to their office on Washington Avenue and show ID and proof that I lived here. They gave me a code, and that code you put into the machine. And it gives you a ride. You pick up the bike, ride, and there's no charge. that can be improved, I think, as part of outreach. In the Flamingo Park neighborhood, I championed a project called Slow Streets. Here we go, another data point. From the city's own surveys they conduct every 2 years, 2 out of 3 people don't feel safe crossing the street. The simple thing is just walking across the street, they don't feel safe. I championed the project. I worked with the Flamingo Park Neighborhood Association and with the city, and we built a slow streets project. And that encouraged less through traffic, that signage, lower speed limits. There's a second program that's going to be starting hopefully this fall under construction, where the crosswalks will be safer, they'll be shorter, there'll be protected bike lanes as well, and some speed humps installed, I believe, as well as artistic treatments to make the intersections look even prettier. On Collins Avenue in Mid-Beach, MDOT was doing a huge project to repave and improve the streets. I worked with the Mid-Beach Neighborhood Association. I worked with our state senator, who was Senator Pizzo at that time, and I worked with MDOT and the district secretary, Stacy Miller, at that time, who's now the chair, actually the chief of the county's transportation department. But we worked together to add a bike lane into that project. Why? Because we are, maybe not people in this room, but we are a biking city, we're a walking city, we're a transit city. And to make it safer for everyone, make sure that we have the proper facilities and infrastructure. That project was just completed, and if you go to Collins Avenue in the 20s and the 30s, you'll see it along the street. I worked on capital projects with neighbors on the West Avenue project, again, improving the crosswalks, improving the intersections so that it's safer to walk. On First Street, I worked with First Street in the South Point stormwater improvement project. I worked with neighbors to come up with another alternative that puts more green space into that project instead of asphalt. The plan was going to pave over, it sounds crazy, but a stormwater project was to put more pavement onto the streets, and we reversed it. 30% more green space, more trees, more landscaping, more blue and green resiliency aspects to that. School safety, I worked on bike to school and walk to school days with the police department. I received an award from the Miami Beach Police Department on my involvement. On the slow streets, I received a certificate of appreciation from the Miami Beach City Commission. And lastly, there's a lot of other things. I'm not going to go through them all, but one of the commissioners has a micro-mobility task force. It's the commissioner, it's the directors. I'm running out of time here. And I'm the only resident subject matter expert that's on there. The commissioners trust me to advise them on topics of transportation and mobility. On the planning board, just real quick, again, I oppose the trend of de-densifying the city, because that is a trend of encouraging less people to live here. And that gets into restaurants. What do we keep hearing about? Restaurants that are closing. When we go to the restaurants ourselves, we see they're not busy, because post-2020, there's a gold rush down here. And they say in the gold rush, you want to be selling with shovels, not mining for the gold. So the landlords made a ton of money renting to all these out-of-town restaurateurs for these high-end, large restaurants that normal people who live here can't afford. And now, unfortunately, we're seeing what happened with that. We're seeing that the restaurants are closing, that they're undergoing quote renovations to save face with closing as well. And what we're left with in the community are empty storefronts again. So it's about smart growth, not just in housing, but also in commerce. And then lastly, I think I'm running out of time. Time check. 9:45. I want to have some time for questions and answers. So I just want to conclude. I bring real-world problem solving to things that are facing Miami Beach. It's housing, it's transit, it's transportation, it's getting to the doctor, it's looking at the data and using it to help guide policy. And I have a perfect track record. There's more things I didn't get to mention, but it's about working with the community, it's about working with the experts. And I ask that you vote for me, Matthew Gultanoff, on November 4th, because I will bring that to the City Commission. So thank you for coming, and I want to get to the question and answer portion. Yes.
Micromobility stand here. We have, I've been here 25 years, and I have been saying this for 25 years. And I communicate with Beth on her project that she's doing now. People do not respect the traffic laws. The people in the bicycles and the scooters, they do not. I mean, I am amazed that there are no more accidents in Miami. And that is the first thing we have to do. If you want this community to be a bicycle and a scooter, which is a great idea. My husband doesn't let me ride a bike anymore because he says I'm going to get killed one of these days. Just so that you know, and allow me a minute. The other day, just for the sake of it, we followed. I said to my husband, Mike, let's just drive around for 20 minutes and we're going to follow bicycles and scooters for 20 minutes. The Venetian, the West Avenue, Alton Road, not a single bicycle, not a single scooter. Stop at stop sign, no traffic lights.
So,
Marty, she stole my question.
that's
I'm
okay.
not talking to you anymore. I'm not talking to you anymore. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Huge problem.
Yes, it is.
Go ahead. I want to answer the question. You have totally different ideas than what we are
going to repeat
here in Miami Beach. How are you going to relate to the people that are on the commission now or are going to be re-elected?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Repeat this
I
in
will
short.
repeat.
In
So
short.
thank you, Marilyn, for your questions. Two questions. The first one is about safety, following the rules, sharing the road with drivers, people on scooters, on bicycles. So thank you for that question. I'll tell you why. Because I think the number one thing we need to focus on is education. And you never hear education. I'm sorry. Well, yeah. So here's the police are great partners. In fact, in one recent meeting of one of the city commission committees, the assistant chief goes up there and says, talking about me, I'm one of the most responsible bicycle riders in the city, and he wishes they were all like me. Well, thank you. But what I'll say is it's about education. And what we hear in the city is where you can't ride, but not how you should ride. So number one, you should stop at stop signs. But at a minimum, you need to slow down and look both ways. There's something called an Idaho stop, which
They're not suggested.
I understand, but let me just say, it's about self-preservation.
This is like rolling through the
I
in
see
a
it.
car.
I
And
see it.
so,
I
you're
see it
not
just like-
really giving a good answer.
Let me finish.
Okay.
I see this just like Idaho stop is like a rolling stop, just like drivers do. But many times we see scooter riders are not even slowing down, and they're not looking left and right. They're not looking for other people. So number one, it's about self-preservation. Preserve your own life. Number two, it's about safe infrastructure. If you make a mistake, it should not be fatal. And that means in our neighborhoods, in our residential neighborhoods, we shouldn't have traffic signals that encourage higher speeds. We should have stop signs everywhere. Number two, that means building more bike lanes so that people are segregated. Because I drive just like you and others, and it is nerve-wracking because you don't know anyone could be coming in any direction. So I understand. It's about sharing the road, but where we can, we need to also separate the bike lanes, follow our bicycle pedestrian master plan. The experts, 10 years ago, 2015, they created a whole plan, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. We're 10 years later, we're not even out of phase 1. Phase 1 was supposed to be the easiest part. Number two, wear a helmet. I wear a helmet everywhere I go.
Make it so long because
Okay.
there's other questions
Fine.
that want to follow, and you're giving too much. The question is,
Education,
And
infrastructure,
how long have you been
enforcement.
involved in this?
Enforcement. I've been on the task force. for about 2 years.
No, but before that, you made a lot of changes.
Yes.
You have been involved for a long time.
About 6 years.
You have come
Of course.
here, and I remember asking, what are the rules of the road? And you, at some point, did not know the rules of the road.
I know the rules of the road now. and we're
Okay,
gonna educate-
yeah, because I brought it up. But the stop signs should be looked at.
Of course.
And what have you done to educate and advocate? You have been a great advocate
Yes.
for the bike lanes and for everything else. But where is the education part that you say we need?
Absolutely. I'm working with partners to stress the educational aspects. What the rules are that you should be following, not just where you shouldn't ride, but how you should ride so that how that you should ride so that you survive.
One of my nightmares.
Okay.
Okay, so
Okay.
I
Follow-up
know.
question.
And then number 2, your question was, I have great relationships with the city commissioners and the mayor. I respect them and they respect me, and I've worked together on many legislative and other priorities, and I'm confident that we'll work together to make the city better.
Okay, I have a follow-up question
Yes.
to keep it on the bicycle thing, since you got my question. Do you think that it's prudent to have roads like Collins Avenue, Washington Avenue, and Alton Road to have a bicycle lane in lieu of, instead of Alton Road, have West Avenue? Instead of Washington Avenue, have Euclid?
Yeah.
What do you think about the roads that are that busy to have bicycle lanes?
So short answer, it depends. When there is a lower traffic, less stressful alternative, like West Avenue, it makes sense. And by the way, I know when you were mayor, FDOT wanted to put the bike lane on Alton Road, and you championed to putting it on West Avenue. Well, guess what? How many years later is that? We're over 12 years later. Where is it?
But I think that
It's
what
not
should
your fault.
happen.
It's not your fault. In
I
fact,
know that.
I bet you would have pushed for it to happen, but we've had so many capital projects that the city runs go nowhere. FDOT, if they put it on Alton Road, for better or worse, it would have been there for the last 10 years.
But where, you cannot think of one issue and champion that issue to the expense of the rest of the city. You have to champion an issue looking holistic at how the intended consequences.
Yes.
And I'll tell you one.
I'm going to ask you a
16th
question.
Street, 16th Street.
Okay.
Did you champion for a Meridian and 16? Did you champion for a bicycle lane there?
Do you want to know the background on that?
Just short answer.
No.
Did you?
So that was a commission priority after, unfortunately, 2 children were seriously injured on Meridian Avenue by a driver that was on drugs. And by the way, he's still in jail. If you look it up, he's still in jail today.
So, okay, great. Did you say anything? So you didn't champion. So what happened is, to put the bicycle lane, they took the parking and they took the left turn. Being the 16th Street is the street that is really the important street because it's the only street that goes all the way from Alton Road to Collins Avenue. And now what happens? What happens is people turn left in 16th Street, and I asked, why have you done this? He said, well, we need to put the bicycle lane, we have to take the parking and the left turn. So now people are blocked going there and making the left, and it backs up. So there is consequences
Yes.
when you don't represent everybody. You need to represent the cars, the walkers. This is a pedestrian street, a pedestrian city, and the bicycles hit you. I walk my
Thank
dog.
you. So I'm just going to stop you there for a moment.
I will
Again,
stop.
I've worked and will continue to work for people who are walking, biking,
Good.
driving, and taking transit. I worked with staff in the county to help improve the traffic signals so that when we talk about traffic light synchronization, I understand it, and I've worked with them to identify actionable examples, not just a high level, we need to make our lights more synchronized. Meridian Avenue is a perfect example. If you're driving your car on Meridian Avenue from South Beach to Dade Boulevard, You get a red light, a green light, a red light, a green light, a red light, a green light. It can take 10 minutes to go 10 blocks. And that is one example of...
That's safe though, don't you think, for the bicycle rider?
I don't think it's safe for anyone. I don't think it's...
You slow down.
Anyway, so...
Another question.
Thank you, Maddie. I always appreciate it.
Good morning, and thank you for being here.
Thank you.
As long as we're on the topic of safety on the streets, I live on North Beach, and one of my major complaints is the fact that in addition to now scooters and every other motorized vehicle being on the sidewalk when they shouldn't be, and basically running me off the sidewalk when I'm walking,
Yes.
that's one issue. But the issue that I really am interested in is why is it that I never ever see a police officer stopping speeders on Indian Creek Drive from 71st Street or from 67th Street to 63rd Street? They're going 50 miles an hour in a 30-mile-an-hour zone, and I've never seen one cop pull anybody over.
A car.
A car, right. And so my question is, what would you do as commissioner to encourage the police officers to start that up? Because everybody that speeds knows that they're not going to get caught. Because there's never anybody getting caught.
Over time, what was on Indian Creek Drive from where to where?
Well, I live at Indian Creek at about 67th Street.
Okay.
And I'm talking about the section, it's all over, but I'm talking specifically from 67th Street to 63rd Street. There's never been, as I've seen, anybody stopping for speeding, and they're traveling 50 miles an hour.
So speed enforcement is critical for safety of
That's what I'm
everyone.
getting at. What would you do to make the police officers set up a speed trap? That's what they need to do.
Yeah, I mean, I would encourage more speed enforcement. I would also encourage perhaps looking at technology solutions for this. And I'll tell you why. Enforcement works because it's a tool of education as well. If you know you're going to get a speeding ticket, you will slow down. Almost everyone who lives here knows that if you're on Alton Road by the golf course, there are police hanging out there, right? And most people will go 30 miles an hour. If there are no officers on Indian Creek, we need to get them out there and make sure they're doing speed enforcement. But the other issue is that a lot of people who are driving on Miami Beach are visitors. Enforcement is a great tool, but if they're not going to be here a week from today, they're never going to learn from that ticket that they got. So to your point, if people are driving 50 or 60 miles an hour on this stretch of road, that tells me two things. One, the road is designed for high speeds. Okay? You need to make it so it's not comfortable to drive 60 miles an hour. And two, there's something else at play here. Where are they racing to? Why are they racing on this stretch of roadway? We need to learn why that is, and then again, get back to designing it for more appropriate speeds. And then yes, always we need to focus on safety. Enforcement, in addition to education, is important. We need to get police out of their cars. We've heard this a lot. Work with them. Find out why. We always hear, they don't want to get out of their cars. Well, why is that? Does anyone know the answer?
Oh, I do actually. Yeah, I do the CVP, so it's very hard for them to walk. Just imagine you staying all day. Some of them have passed out already in the middle of Ocean Drive. And also, if there is an issue, and let's say they are 3 or 4 blocks off their car, it would take forever for them to get to the car and go to that particular issue. So there are reasons.
Okay.
You gotta we gotta look at both sides of the coin.
Of course, that's why I'm asking the question.
Yeah.
Right? It's not
You
as
talk to
simple as-
CVP, baby.
It's
Yeah.
not just as simple as that. So look, it's 2025. There are a lot of technological solutions out there. Let's look for personal cooling devices for our police, for shade, and let's get them mobility devices, perhaps maybe the scooters that we always talk about and maybe not always a fan of. Maybe it might be helpful for police to be on an e-bike or a bicycle, because you can get around the city very quickly and they're effective in other parts.
Let me take you out of this because
Yes.
I know you know more than this.
I do.
And you are really interested in more parts of the community. You said something about the difference between density and FAR. Could
Yes.
you say that again?
Yes. Okay. So FAR stands for floor area ratio. It is about how big a building can be relative to the piece of land. So for example, let's say I have a plot of land that's 10,000 square feet. That's like a standard size lot on Miami Beach. If my FAR is 2.0, that means I can build 20,000 square feet of inside area, like under air conditioning, basically. Right? Density is usually measured in how many housing units per usually it's acre, right? So a lot of times we'll see places, it's like 150 housing units or dwelling units per acre. When someone says they're reducing the density of a building, what they're saying is they're reducing how many housing units you can build on a given piece
And
of
I
land.
wanted to get you there. Don't you think that helps traffic?
So the interesting thing is when you drill down into the data, people who live on Miami Beach, they drive less than elsewhere. For example, in South Beach,
I'm not.
No, there's a reason
I don't
why-
win all that. Just give me the answer.
yes, the answer
Do
is
you think that less dense is less traffic? That's
so
the
on
question.
Miami Beach, in South Beach, in North Beach, in our dense parts of Mid Beach, the more people that live there, the more people that will be working in our community, that will be going to commerce in our community.
That is not the question.
But I'm answering your
I mean,
question.
I-
By definition, by the
Matthew,
data,
I'm sorry.
less people will be driving. Then the alternative would be they live on the mainland and they drive to work. They all
Do
drive to
you
work.
think, I'll pose it to you again,
Yes.
that less density means less traffic? When you have less apartments and less people live here, would that transfer to less traffic?
On Miami Beach, the answer is no.
Oh, and why?
Okay, well, I was just giving you the why.
No, don't give me that why, because
Well, that's the answer.
no, I think you're not correct. I think you're not correct.
Is
or
this a
you're not
debate?
understanding.
Is this a debate, or are we here to?
You're right. Go
Thank
ahead.
you.
Give a short
I
answer.
just answered. Miami Beach is a city that people, they walk to get around, they take transit, they work from home, and they ride their bike in addition to driving. So by definition, more people that live here will
Yes.
get to the jobs on Miami Beach,
Yes.
to the doctors on Miami Beach,
Yes.
to the schools on Miami Beach, to the stores and the cultural
I agree on
institutions
that with
on
you.
Miami Beach. They won't be driving in from the mainland.
I agree with you
Period.
that, but that's
Next
not the
question.
question I asked.
It was.
The
Thank you.
question I asked
You have a
was,
question, sir?
Yeah, we have questions.
Yes.
I want to ask you about the balloon.
hold on.
Wait a second.
Let me get the
I
mic
don't
over
think that
there.
mic is working.
It's
Oh, the
on.
mic is not for here. The mic is for here. Yes. So follow the
That's
program.
what I come with the
I
mic.
gotcha.
Yeah.
So
We've
the
been doing this for a couple of days, so we know what you're doing.
okay, the question is about blue zones.
Yes.
There's supposed to be an initiative to make the Miami Beach a blue zone, and I want to know what you know about that, what it means, what the plans are, and is it something that's going to happen?
So
And is it going to change? You know, what's going to change?
I'm not an expert on what a blue zone is, but what I'll tell you is that the people that live on Miami Beach, the outdoors is their living room. So naturally, the city is a fit community where people, you just go out there, they're running, they're walking, they're jogging, they're biking, they're rollerblading, they're playing volleyball, except the sports already, they're at tennis, they're at the parks. We're a fit and healthy community. So I think the idea is to highlight this more and perhaps market it to outsiders and look for more opportunities. But compared to other places in the country, I think that we're pretty much there already.
Yeah, I think. Well, the blue zone is more than just exercise. It's also there's a whole nutrition component. So I was just wondering.
I mean, I'm a
I've
fan.
just heard about it
Yeah.
anecdotally, and I don't know what it actually means. It's also there's a social part.
Okay.
So making sure that you have a community, you know, to get people to meet each
Okay.
other
Yeah.
more easily. I think that's a problem. And where it's hard for them to make friends. And so it's not just exercise. But yeah.
And there is a program, and there is a city that has a lot of blue zones. And I don't know, I didn't go to the meeting where they did discuss this, but, you know, maybe I'll bring somebody from the city about the blue zone.
We have two more questions.
So yes, I'm a fan of community and nutrition and all that. Absolutely. Yes.
We have a Harry.
I'd like to know, I don't really.
Yeah, but with the light
Oh my
thing-
God,
I'd
don't you
like
know
to
already?
What is your
What's-
qualifications? What a short biographical sketch. And number two is, what are you going to do? We really need rapid transit here. We can't get over there. We got sort of all congestion and whatever. What are you doing about, what's your solution to rapid transit?
Thanks. So I have a bachelor's degree. I studied, in addition to business, I studied urban planning and engineering. Fun
Where?
fact, in Washington, D.C. Fun fact, I was actually going to be a highway. When I was younger, I wanted to be a highway builder. And I was in there, and I saw this is not what works. Building more lanes is not the solution. But we see, unfortunately, all the construction, the never-ending construction in Miami, and that impacts us here, by the way. That contributes to the lack of mobility in the afternoons, all the nonstop construction on 95, and downtown, the bridge project, and the Dolphin, and this and that. We do need more. I agree with you. Many people say, the experts agree, that we need rapid mass transit, whether it's here on the beach, whether it's connecting us to the mainland so that we can get around there as well.
Well, what do you do? What's your solution?
Well, look, I'm going to tell you that there are voices, loud voices that are not necessarily the majority, and that's the point about outreach, that have derailed, no pun intended, a connection. You know, Maddie's heard for decades about a connection, whether it's Blake Rail, whether it's Metro Rail, whether it's Bailing, whether it's People Mover, whatever it is. We need to work with the experts, but then we also need to work with the people who live down here on Miami Beach. Why is it exactly that they don't want it, and what can we do to work together? The issue is that it's
I'm asking you. You're supposed to be the expert.
Well, I'm getting there, but thank you.
He
I'm
can
getting
learn.
there. People that are most opposed because, for example, it might be the train might get too close to the pool deck is one of the things. How can we make it so that the pool deck is not visible or that the noise is reduced? We need to get the people on board so that we can work with the county partners and we can make that investment so that Miami Beach is connected to the regional transportation system. If you Google my name, by the way, you'll see that I have over the years been a staunch supporter of these things. I understand the reality of working together with people, building consensus. So I will work to build consensus with policymakers on Miami Beach and work with, again, our state and county partners so that we can move forward on these large-scale capital projects to connect Miami Beach. I know it's not answering your question because I can't physically go out there and take a shovel and build it. You have to work together with people.
Here.
Yeah. So getting off topic, you're looking to replace Kristen Rosen Gonzalez on the commission. And so my question to you is, think of things that Kristen recently voted on that you were either in favor of or against, and why.
I can think of two examples. One is the two recent development projects that had a special meeting, and I was opposed to them mainly because of de-densifying the city. Again, less people means more traffic. Paradox, but more traffic with less people living here, and it's less vibrancy, less community in the blue zones, and it doesn't address any housing affordability issues that we have in the city. We're a city of majority renters, and the commission priorities seem to be building more housing for part-time residents. Do you have any other examples? Just can't think of any on top of my head, but I'm sure.
No, I was leaving that up to you.
Okay. I'll give another one. There was an issue.
Well, so let me just make sure that I'm understanding you correctly. On those two issues, 1250 and the bill, Kristen ultimately voted in favor of them, and you would have voted against them. Is that correct?
I would have worked to find a way to build a component of more, attainable housing into them if possible. If you look around the country and the world, the inclusionary zoning exists. You can build different levels of housing in a project, and I think that the way in which these projects landed, other than for the city's coffers, perhaps they don't tick all the other boxes.
Matthew, let me ask you a question on the housing issue.
Do you know the difference between affordable housing and workforce housing that the commission make, changes to say we are doing workforce housing? Do you know the difference?
So I'm going to try to answer that, and I certainly know there is a difference, and I can look up the exact figures, but they have to do with percentage of AMI, area median income. And I believe that affordable is under 80% of AMI, and then workforce could be anywhere from 80 to 140%. And just so you know, the median income is like $90,000, so 140% is like a very high number. So I don't think it's just that the commission should be building this housing. I think we need to work to increase the supply of lower scale, non-water view, market rate housing so that the market will naturally adjust with more supply and rents will come down.
But do you believe that all the incentives that they're giving now to workforce housing, there's one coming up at this tomorrow, which is the Allen. Now
The Barclay.
The Barclay.
The Barclay.
Sorry, thank you.
Yeah.
The Barclay. And the Barclay's rent, because it's workforce housing, is for studio. I belong to the Housing Authority, I
Yes.
sit on the board. So the Housing Authority is giving some vouchers so that we can get the rent down to do affordable housing, because I'm always interested, like you, in affordable housing. So we have, I don't remember how many vouchers, but we're gonna have some for studios. And those studios are gonna be paying $2,200 a month. $2,200 a month for workforce housing. The ones that do not have the help from the Housing Authority are going to be paying almost, it's $2,400 something, almost $25. The one bedroom is all going to be rented for almost $3,000. And the two bedrooms are going to be rented for almost $5,000.
Unreasonable.
And do you think that that is what the city should be doing instead of bringing down? See, I believe that developers make more money on this, and it's not really, but it's the confusion with workforce housing and really affordable housing is really different. I don't think a teacher, they always say the policeman can't pay that rent because they get a lot of money from here in Miami.
Maddie speaks the truth.
But I don't really think it's helping the people get affordable. Are you for affordable housing or continue to make the deal with the private developer for workforce housing?
No, I
Marty,
don't.
over here.
I'm going to answer that real quick. I don't want to make deals, and the city shouldn't be in the business of developing housing, period. The Barclay is an example of how not to do it. I think that we're ending up in a solution, at least where something is being built, and we have a very motivated person who's behind the project. But for years and years and years, the city sat on that land. We had people who said the city needs to make money on that, which they shouldn't be. The city needs to, my opinion, my experience is they should get out of their own way and create an environment that fosters the development of more housing, but should not be directly involved. Affordable housing is a little different, and that is a very special circumstance. But workforce housing is just code for market rate housing, period, effectively. And
No.
so just to close on that, we create an environment that allows more market rate housing to be built at lower heights and lower scale, and that will lead to lower rents, period.
That's why the historic district is so important.
I was going to ask you, one of the miracles of transportation is the bus that goes to the airport and back. I know that Michael Adler, for those who remember him, took 17 years to get $2.35 for people to get on that bus. I don't know if you had anything to do with that or you're familiar with that, but that's a good example of how long it takes to do some of these projects
Yeah.
that benefit everyone. But again, as Maddie has said, there's all these outside forces that you're not aware of that are against, like taxis and other things. But I don't know if you want to speak a little bit to that, because
Sure.
it is always full and it's something everyone uses.
So how many years did it take to get?
17.
It took 17 years to be built, and this bus took less than 1 year to almost be removed. And that is a reason why, to your point about like fixed rail and fixed links to the city, they're so important. Large-scale capital projects, they will stay around. People have confidence that when you build some sort of train or busway, it will be there tomorrow. The bus can be taken away at any moment. I worked with people in the community to help save the 150 bus 2 years ago when it was slated for removal. I've taken that bus myself. And you're right, it is people who work at the airport. It's visitors from around the world who are not taking Ubers to get here, not contributing to traffic. It's residents of our city. It is definitely all people of all walks of life.
Did you say they took it away?
They were going to. They didn't. They saved it. It comes less frequent. And frequency equals ridership. And by the way, I wanted to point out something else. The trolleys, which I didn't talk about too much, the trolleys had 5 million riders pre-2020. The city cut the frequency, how often these buses come. And now there's 3.5 million and falling ridership. So we have less people taking the trolley, for example. That's a reason why it feels like we have more traffic, because people are driving, they're taking Ubers on Miami Beach. So I will work together, and I've spoken on this and advocated for an improved trolley system that works for people. The buses are important. The 150 is a great example of how long it takes to build something and how easy it is to kill it.
And how important it is to
How
vote for the county commissioner that represents Miami Beach, because it was the county commissioner.
And how important our relationships are
Exactly.
with the county and working together with them to make it better.
Okay, last question.
Last question.
Just one point on affordable housing.
Yes.
It is totally, as you know, I'm not going to preach to the fire. It is totally different than workforce housing.
Yes.
For example, you cannot assess affordable housing. So if the building needs a repair, whatever, and it's an affordable housing building, you cannot assess the tenants. Or because there are no owners, they're tenants, you cannot assess them to fix the building. So who is going to come in and help the city? Whoever owns that building.
Well, let me explain a little bit. Do you know
And by the way,
answer?
were you involved in the Miami Beach Community Development Corporation?
Long time ago.
That's
Okay.
why nobody wants to build affordable house.
Long time ago. But you do have to assess it, and you do get code violations. The city gives the same treatment to affordable housing than to regular housing, okay? They get the same treatment and they have to do the same thing. Now, if the housing authority, any housing authority, the Hialeah, the Miami, they inspect those apartments and the buildings one time a year. And guess what? They take the resident out and they say you can't be there if they don't fix the house. We had a lot of slumlords all over Miami Beach when I first came here. And it does not happen anymore. And if it happens very little. And some of it, the city is taking care of because they are running it and they're not keeping up with the jobs.
Yeah, and to Maddie's point, a rental building, the owner is responsible for maintenance.
Exactly.
The condo building, the owner, in this case the resident, is responsible. And that's another part that we don't talk about in terms of housing affordability, is the ever-increasing maintenance costs of housing on Miami Beach. And it's another thing that I would definitely love to study is all these special assessments and the work that's being done and what are best practices, and are people's money being spent wisely, or are they being taken for a ride by contractors?
And unfortunately, that's the state. The state controls condominiums, and the city can do very little on the condominium issues.
Well, we
If
can
you-
work with our state
Yes,
partners,
yes, yes,
of course,
yes.
and that is the name
And
of the
we
game.
have, but they don't ever, they have very strong lobbyists up in Tallahassee for condominium. Very, very
So-
strong. It's very tough to get anything done. Tell me, I would never buy it in a condominium because it's another city with its bureaucracy and its scandals. And so,
But that's our city, and it's our residents,
Yes.
and we're definitely
I
concerned
agree.
about that. So, all right, what do you think?
That's it. Terrific.
All right, well, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Valerie.
Thank you.
Thank
I want to thank you for putting up. I
Always.
am always very tough. Always. To all.
Hang on, let's get one.
Picture.
Wait, just one
Valerie,
second. We're not
Valerie.
done yet. We are not done yet, please.
Okay.
Our next guest is going to be Laura Dominguez. She will be back here on the 30th. So look for the email, check on the Tuesday morning Facebook page. Now, the Art Deco weekend has new dates, January 9, 10, and 11, looking for vendors. So talk to the Art Deco district. You have connections over there, so talk to those guys. Thank you. Now we can take a pictures as long as I finish with the Facebook. Can I finish with that?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Here, just let me click finish. And there you go. There you go.